Who doesn't love cheese? You can add it to any dish, and it gets instantly better. But while we can all agree that cheese is awesome, even the biggest cheese lovers still don't know about how it's made. So, in today's video, let's put together a spread of your favorites and see what goes on inside factories. All cheese begins with one key ingredient: milk. But not all milk is the same. Most cheeses you know, like cheddar, Swiss, and Gouda, are made from cow's milk. No surprise, since it has the perfect balance of fat and protein. Sheep's milk is good too. Even though it's too rich in lactose to drink, it forms the base for Roquefort and Manchego cheeses. For a tangy twist, goat's milk produces sharp chèvre and creamy boucheron. But here's what people don't know. Turning milk into cheese requires more than just the milk itself. It needs a coagulant to form curds. Rennet comes in. While it's an enzyme found in young mammals naturally, it's now mostly made through microbial bioprocessing. But milk and rennet are just the start. Flavors come in from added salt, spices, and even wine. Making cheese requires science, skill, and a bit of patience. The people behind it are known as fromagers, or cheesemakers. And despite how much variety there is, the early steps in the process are surprisingly similar across the board. Since milk is the foundation of every cheese, it's important to start with the perfect batch. But what does perfect mean? That honestly depends on the type of cheese you want to make. Cheesemakers start by adjusting the milk to ensure the right balance of protein and fat. The milk is then usually pasteurized or treated with mild heat. This not only kills off unwanted organisms that could spoil the cheese, but also gets the milk in the right condition for the starter cultures to thrive. Once the milk is pasteurized, it's cooled to around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Next comes a critical step in the cheese-making process: acidification. Left on its own, milk will eventually turn sour due to bacterial growth. But this natural process is unpredictable, and the end flavor isn't always pleasant. To control this, cheesemakers add starter cultures to the milk. These cultures are carefully selected strains of bacteria that help acidify the milk in a predictable way. At this stage, the milk should already be at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and it stays at this temperature for about 30 minutes while it ripens. During this time, the pH level of the milk drops. The basic flavor profile of the cheese is already forming. Our product is still a liquid, so it's time to give it some texture. This step, called curdling, is where milk starts its transformation, and rennet is used here. The science behind it can get complex, but this reaction basically causes the milk to thicken and form solid lumps called curds. Plus, it leaves behind a liquid byproduct known as whey. Once the curd has formed, it's time to separate it from the whey. The curds and whey mixture is allowed to ferment and settle until the pH level drops to about 6.4. By this point, the curd has coalesced into a solid mass within the cheese-making vat. Now comes the cutting. Using long curd knives that reach all the way to the bottom of the vat, cheesemakers slice through the curd in a crisscross pattern. This step is crucial because cutting the curd increases its surface area, which allows for more separation from the whey. The size of the curds after cutting is a key factor in determining the final texture of the cheese. Larger chunks of curd tend to hold on to more moisture, resulting in a softer, moister cheese. But smaller